Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Monday Night Racing Season 6 playoffs. The second round, I guess this is the round of 8, is about to kick off tonight at Pocono Raceway. My name is Eric Estep. I am your host here on the YouTube side of things. Thank you all for tuning in early to the pre-race show. Green flag is scheduled to fly just past the top of the hour, but you're here early, which means you guys get to kind of get the lowdown on what's going on, where we're at in the playoffs. If you're new to Monday Night Racing, who the key players are. This is the first race of the round of 8. If you missed round 1, if you missed the races at Richmond, Daytona, last week it was Watkins Glen with Sage Karam getting the win. Not a playoff driver, but still a dominant performance. And then you've missed a lot. But we'll be able to catch you up here real quick. There are 8 drivers still alive, still vying for the highly coveted Season 6 title. Presley Sora, the defending champion, currently leads the standings. The points all, of course, just reset. Adam Cabot, Chase Cabrey, Corey Heim currently hold the 4 transfer spots. Technically a tie for the final spot between Heim, Leighton Sabile, and Joey Padgett. Ryan Vargas and Matt Stallnick were both able to squeak their way into this second round through gritty performances at Watkins Glen last week. And it's great to see all of you. I'm looking at the chat right now, seeing a lot of familiar faces. In just a moment, we'll actually get to talk to one of those playoff drivers, but I'm excited. It's Pocono Raceway. I got to visit Pocono in real life for the first time this year. It's a wonderful facility. I think I finally understood the hype. So many fans for years, when I'd maybe say something not so great about the racing at Pocono, they'd come at me and say, like, well, you got to see it for yourself. You'll see it from a completely different point of view. You'll appreciate it. And I agree. Pocono Raceway is a beautiful racetrack. And I think tonight with the next gen cars, it's going to put on a fantastic show. Before we bring in the broadcast booth, though, I just promised you guys we were going to talk to a Monday Night Racing playoff driver, and I believe he's in here now. Ryan Vargas, do you got a copy?
Hello. How are we?
I'm doing great. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm doing pretty well. I hope you're doing well as well. I saw just before we went green tonight, before you started streaming yourself, that you announced a new sponsor tonight that's on your car. What can you tell us about that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, FFO is a good partner of both Critical Path Security and myself now through the e-racing stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. Always cool to welcome new people to the sport, whether it be virtual or in real life. So FFO for wealth and family management. I highly recommend you guys check them out. They're, like I mentioned, very good partner of Critical Path Security, one of my main partners. So those watching, check them out. Give them some love for supporting myself and supporting racing at this level. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And speaking of racing at this level, you have made it to the round of 8 of the Monday Night Racing Season 6 playoffs. You kind of squeaked through in that last race at Watkins Glen, but you're here. So how do you approach this round? Only 2 races, so you got to be at your best immediately, right?
Yeah, I mean, this season is going very similar to last season, albeit a lot less smooth. Just I went into this season with the idea of top 10ing myself through the playoffs, but as the playoffs grew closer, I just kept getting wrecked. And so it was just a matter of finishing races, it seemed to be. And Watkins Glen was no different. We got turned on the first lap by a little bit of aggressive driving / net code, and then survived the race. So I'm excited for tonight. A little bit more my wheelhouse. We're doing oval, I guess you could say triangle racing. But my FFO, Critical Path Security Chevy looks pretty good.
Awesome stuff. Yes. And speaking of triangle racing, Pocono, what's it going to take to be great there tonight? What's the secret? If there is a secret, how do you feel about your chances of maybe getting a win tonight and locking yourself into that championship 4?
Man, Corey Heim and Chase Cabrey are both very fast tonight. I'm third on the board right now. It's really just going to come down to being smart and being there at the end. I think, if we could play our strategy right, play, tire and fuel, or maybe catch a good caution, maybe we can luck ourselves a pretty decent, top 3 run. But really, like I mentioned before, it's just all about being there at the end. When that checkered flag falls, you want to be in contention.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, we've got a lot of fans of yours here in the YouTube chat, so they'll be cheering you on. And I just got word you'll be our Tufco Flooring in-race reporter tonight as well. So hopefully we'll get to talk to you during the race. Hopefully things are going well for you. But thanks for joining us on the pre-race show, Ryan, and good luck tonight at Pocono.
Thank you, guys.
Ryan, before you leave, I got a quick question for you.
Oh, God. Okay, what's up?
Well, first off, you're my pick, so just want to throw that out there. Second, how many turns does Pocono have?
5 turns. 5 turns
Oh.
Pocono has.
For the love of
So
Come
here's-
on,
here's my
Vargas.
example. Here's my
Come
example,
on.
right? So turn 1 and 2, turn 1 and 2 at Pocono is based off of turn 1 and 2 at Trenton? What is it? I can't remember the track. It's based off of turn 1 and 2 somewhere. I don't know where. And then the tunnel turn is based off of one individual corner of Indianapolis. One individual corner of the 4.
Okay.
That makes it 1 turn. And then the final corner, or turns 4 and 5, is based off of turns 1 and 2. And that's at Trenton, right? I can't remember. But I know the corners are based off of turn 3 is based off of 2, turn 1 is based off of 2, and then the tunnel turn is based off of 1, which equals 5.
I think that makes sense. So are we racing at a Pentagon tonight? Should we just nickname Pocono the Pentagon?
Yeah, yeah, we're racing at the Pentagon tonight.
My geometry is not too great. Well, thank you for joining us, Ryan. With that being said, you guys just heard from them a moment ago, but I guess we can bring in the broadcast booth. Blake McCandless, Jacob Hitz, and Kenneth Bueno calling the action tonight. Blake, what's going on with you this evening?
Well, other than interrupting your interviews, Eric, we have a lot of fun planned for you here tonight as we embark upon the Pocono Raceway for tonight's Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries, race of yet another round of this Season 6 playoffs. I'm Blake McCandless, along with Kenneth Bueno and Jacob Hitz, and we may not agree on how many turns there are here, Kenneth, but one thing is certain, Pocono is going to be a tough challenge for these guys tonight.
Lord, I am on the 3-turn gang, by the way. I do not want to get into any more debates about how many turns Pocono has, but this round and this race in specific, Blake, is going to be so very important to the drivers in the playoffs. And I'd argue that this round of 8, is going to be the most pivotal, probably more than the championship race at Homestead in a couple of weeks. You only have 2 races to fully execute. The pressure is under these drivers, a lot of them being rookies, in fact. So these 2 races, very interesting tracks in Pocono and Chicagoland, and different combos at stake. You're going to really have to put your 150% if you want to make it to that championship round. This is the first step of probably many that will be taken by each and every playoff driver, and that means, Blake, that we're going to be in for a show. That's for sure.
We're going to be in for a real show, and Jacob, I think what gets really interesting when you look at pit road and you just look at Pocono in general, if you look at racing history here, this racetrack always has a tendency to have races that play out by strategy, and that is going to be something that is weighing pretty heavily on these drivers' minds.
Strategy is definitely going to be a big part of the race tonight, I would think. There have been times where we go into an M&R race and think we're going to have a lot of strategy on pit road, and then we get some predictable cautions that can kind of take all that strategy out the window. But we've got a long race tonight. 80 laps, 200 miles. That's half the distance that they run on the Cup Series side here. So it's going to be a grueling race for these drivers as far as trying to keep the tires underneath them, trying to save enough fuel. And the calculators, Blake, they're going to be smoking all night long on the virtual pit boxes, trying to figure out how long they can make it on fuel, how far they can stretch it. And if we can get a long green flag run or 2 in tonight, I think that could open up the window for some drivers to take a shot and try and pull some strategy, especially those in the playoff picture that are just trying to find a way to get points any way they can.
Well, speaking of the playoff picture, let's take a look at what transpired. Of course, everything that happened at Watkins Glen, we ran the Porsches at the boot. A lot happened to get the 4 drivers out of the playoffs that you see at the bottom left-hand side of your screen right there. Garrett Smithley, David Schildhaus, Nick Olson, and Colin Fern. Leaves us with these 8, Kenneth.
Yeah, and last week at Watkins Glen was very stressful for a lot of the drivers, including Matt Stallneck, who was looked to be out of the race at the end, and all of a sudden, things found to turn his way. He's in the playoffs here for the round of 8. He gets to survive another 2 races before going to Homestead of Miami Speedway. But the one thing I noticed here, Blake, is the fact that we still have a lot of rookies in this playoff hunt. Corey Heim, Chase Cabry, Joey Padgett, in their first full-time effort in Monday Night Racing, are all still very contentious, running for the championship And then you have guys like Presley Sora, a lot of weight on his shoulders to defend his crown. Adam Cabot, who's been to the championship for so many times and got eliminated in this round last season. And then you've got guys like Lane Sabile, Vargas, and Matt Stolnick who can come out of nowhere and provide heavy punches. This is a very stout playoff field. And with these two oval races on tap, these guys are very good at these types of tracks and combos. It's going to be very competitive.
It certainly is. And Jacob, when you think about the fact, 2 races, and when you look at the quality of drivers that we eliminated in round 1, this reminds me of an open convention almost. It is just a wide open race, I think, in terms of who we're looking at to be the championship for in 2 weeks' time.
It's really a mixed bag. You know, there are, I'd say all 8 of them really have a decent chance to make it. It just depends on where everything shakes out. You know, Presley Sora coming in as defending champ. Adam Cabot, he has a championship under his belt from 2 seasons ago. Both drivers seem to be on the cusp of making it to the championship 4. Chase Cabry and Joey Padgett, the 2 rookies that have been stellar all season long. Add Corey Heim into that list as well, at least full-time. Leighton Sabile has been strong down the stretch. He could make a run at it here, depending on what happens at Chicagoland next week. And then you have Vargas and Stolnick. I think they're really the 2 outliers. Vargas, struggled to keep the car clean coming down the stretch toward the playoffs. He was able to knock that off, though, and put together some decent races. Watkins Glen was a little adventurous, to say the least, but he was able to get it done. Matt Stolnick, we know he had a rough go of it at Watkins Glen last week. All he needs, 2 races, 2 solid races, 1 tonight, 1 next week at Chicagoland. And Chicagoland, very familiar amongst the MNR crowd. And Matt Stolnick could be able to point or even win his way in to the championship 4.
Very interesting indeed. We'll see how it all shakes out as we take a look here at the Tricky Triangle, Kenneth.
Well, this track is very tricky. Pocono Raceway opened back in 1971 and was really known for IndyCar racing before the NASCAR cars finally started coming here, and ever since it has provided a great show of strategy and of great racing to the start-finish line. This track located in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, 2.5 miles, or sort of the same length as Daytona International Speedway, but it is a triangle. In fact, 4.023 kilometers, and then you've got each and every turn. It's kind of like a 3-headed beast. 14 degrees in turn 1 based off Trenton Speedway, 8 degrees in turn 2 based off Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then 6 degrees in turn 3 based off the Milwaukee Mile. So you have 3 different challenges for each part of this track. Blake, you can master 1 or 2 of these corners and you'll still have trouble at another part. It is so difficult to drive.
Hard to get all of them dialed in exactly the way that you want it, but that's what makes racing here at Pocono so unique and so interesting. And by the way, this is the 2nd iteration of Pocono Raceway that has been released on the iRacing service. One was scanned back in 2009. This one, obviously, when they repaved this place, they did so in iRacing as well. And that is the version of the racetrack that we will be racing on tonight. So when we get back, we are getting ready to tackle Pocono here in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. As you can look on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see our grid rival matchups for tonight. Always had a lot of fun trying to decipher out the matchups and what have you. I'm interested to see, though, who the overall favorite is for this race. We have a lot of different drivers, a lot of different competitors who could potentially find themselves at the top of the board. Of course, you want to participate with Grid Rival. You can download it on the App Store as well as Google Play if you're on an Android device. And it looks like Adam Cabot and Chase Cabry, along with Corey Heim and Presley Sora, all tied at the top of the board in terms of the overall odds. You can see their rating all the way on the right-hand part of your screen. But when we come back, we are set to dial things up and fire off the engines here tonight at Pocono Raceway for the Out of the Groove 200. Don't go away.
Frontstretch.com, providing up-to-date news, analysis, and commentary on all the latest in the world of motorsports. Check out Frontstretch YouTube page for post-race content after the checkered flag waves for most NASCAR events, giving you up-close interviews with your favorite drivers and the stories that matter each weekend. For the best seat of the track and the best view on the web, visit Frontstretch.com.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going, Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate batteries, outrageously dependable.
Visit our website at toughgoflooring.com.
Get the edge on your competition with P8 Performance Gummies. Formulated specifically for gamers and the esports industry, we packed our gummies with all the good stuff, including ingredients that are clinically proven to help tired eyes, improve reaction times, and help suppress computer vision syndrome. Take your focus and endurance to the next level and try P8 Gummies today. Now available at Procelerate.com. Plus, if you're mad about gaming, we're looking to partner with influencers just like you. Drop us a line at support at Procelerate.com to see if you qualify to try our gummies for free. It's officially game on with all new P8 gummies.
Back with you here from Pocono Raceway for Season 6 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. Again, it's the running of the Out of the Groove 200 at Pocono. Of course, we have a lot of fans out there who are watching tonight on that YouTube channel with Eric Eastep. We appreciate him partnering with us for the playoffs once again here in Monday Night Racing, and we hope that you enjoy the racing that these drivers will put on for you tonight. A little bit delayed than what we usually are. It was the Xfinity test going a little bit long at Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier today, the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And you think about everybody that's in this league, a couple of conflicts, at least with that test, forced us to delay this by about roughly an hour or so. But once we drop the green flag, it is the same as if we were rolling off at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go ahead and take a look at our picks for tonight. You already heard from mine a little bit earlier in Ryan Vargas, but it looks like we are pretty heavy on at least what would be, according to Grid Rival, our favorite for tonight. Kenneth, I'll give you first dibs on Chase Cabre.
Well, Eric and I have got the same pick. We've got the same mindset in terms of this race. Chase Cabre is one of the most consistent drivers and one of the strongest when it comes to any type of combo, most notably these oval races. I think back to a tricky oval combo we had earlier in the campaign, Twin Ring Motegi with the ARCA car. Chase Cabre dominated the last half of that race and just ran away with it. So I'm expecting him to do the same, thing he did at Richmond to start off the initial round of 12, get to victory lane, lock himself in the championship 4.
Absolutely. Well, I can really just second everything you said, but you mentioned consistency. If just besides the ovals, we've run at a couple different types of ovals and a road course in these playoffs already, and Cabre's finishes are incredible. First, seventh, and second. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So I feel like maybe it's beginner's luck. He's contending for the Monday Night Racing championship for the first time ever, but boy, luck and momentum is sure on his side so far.
It has been as of recent. And Jacob, you got the Legends driver out of Tallahassee, Florida, Joey Padgett, had some sneaky runs as of late.
Yeah, sorry, gentlemen, you picked the wrong rookie this year to win tonight in Chase Capri. I'm going with Joey Padgett. He has the speed. He's had the consistency all season long. Driver number 83 punches his ticket. He's going to Homestead. He wins at Pocono.
And again, I think we heard from him earlier. We may not agree on about how many turns there are at this racetrack, but I think Ryan Vargas has something up his sleeve for tonight, especially on how he nearly left the playoffs last week. I think he's got something to say and wants to lock his way into the championship 4 in 2 weeks' time and not have to worry about next week and just be able to chill out and wait before we get things going. It looks like qualifying has just wrapped up here at Pocono Raceway, as we will get a look at our BST Shock starting grid. And as he has many times this season, Corey Heim starting up front, and the winner of your Roasted Gems Coffee Pole Award, 54.666 seconds for the driver of the 51 EPI Toyota. He goes off from first, and DJ Cummings will roll off from the second position. Starting in third tonight will be car number 5. That is Bailey Turner. Alongside him will be Reed Wilson in the number 66 machine. Defending champion and looking to get back to the championship 4 this season, Presley Sora will start in 5th, with Ryan Vargas. He'll roll off from the 6th position tonight. Connor Berry starts in 7th at the O2 machine. Adam Cabot, a champion of 2 seasons ago, will roll off 8th. Colin Fern, eliminated from the playoffs last week, starts 9th, but is a threat to win tonight, along with Gary Sexton, who starts in 10th.
In row number 6, you will find a pair of playoff drivers, starting with Lane Sabile in the 25 out of Hog Tamers the team, and Joyride represented by Joey Padgett on the outside in P12. Ronnie Osmer, after a strong run at Watkins Glen a week ago, he starts 13th. David Schildhouse in the number 20, he's on the outside in P14. Robbie Lyons, the driver out of Seminole, Florida, Season 3 champion, is inside the top 15 when we get the green from Pocono. Joshua Slate will be on the outside in P16. That's row number 8 before you find the final 2 drivers in row number 1, or rather the final 4 drivers to your top 20. Nick Olson, Matt Stolnick. Stolnick dead last in the playoff picture coming into tonight's event. Then the final 2 in the top 20, 19th and 20th. Glendale, Arizona's Devin Henry in the 77, and Justin Malolo out of FTF Drivers Club.
Ford Martin will roll off from the 21st starting position. Chase Capri from 22nd. Brandon Brown and Jordan Buster back here in row number 12. They'll roll off 23rd and 24th. Sage Karam, the 2-time winner this season. Steve Lafont lining up to the outside for Karam. Hometown track for him, or at least home state track for him. James Bickford, Max Kennan, a couple of former playoff drivers back here in row number 14. Michael Massey and Stephen Ellis rounding out the top 30.
Going 31st is Chris Weaver, followed by Michael Fisher in 32nd. Last driver to take time tonight was Mark Rabillis, who will start in 33rd. And 3 more drivers elected not to put down a time in qualifying tonight. That is George Belfans, who starts 34th, Brett Baldeck from 35th, and Case Collenbach, who was a little bit busier earlier today at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, will start in the 36th position tonight. So 36 cars set for 80 laps, Eric, around this Pocono Raceway. We've had a pretty hectic playoffs so far. I think Pocono has the ability to be somewhat of a calming race, but with just 2 races left until the Championship 4, I don't know if we can say that for certain.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. You had 3 races in that first round. Not a ton of room for error, but you could have an off day. It's the round of 12, but now you're in the round of 8. We're going to whittle this down from 8 to 4 next week. So there's really no time to waste, and I think this is going to be shaping up to be an exciting race. We heard Ryan Vargas mention Chase Cabri's speed. He's the deepest starting playoff driver in this field, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially in this first half.
saw the weather scroll across your screen. It is 3 p.m. in sim. 90 degrees ambient temperature makes for a 120-degree track. And one of the other capabilities in the sim, the sun is not going to move. We're going to freeze time in this one. As working off of turn number 3, the pace car will dive to the safety of the pit lane, and the field will fall into the hands of Corey Heim, who gets us underway here at Pocono. Things have settled out front, but they were looking 3 wide, and in fact they were 3 wide back in the pack around the 7th position. But here comes DJ Cummings down to the inside of Corey Heim and looking to take the lead into turn number 1.
Not only 3 wide, Blake, but 3 wide, roughly 2 rows deep. And you're right, the 10 of Cummings already looking to strike on Heim at the exit of turn 1. Looks like the outside might be too strong for the 10 to overcome. He'll fall in line with Reed Wilson. They'll take it to turn 2, and Jacob Hitz.
Top 3 pulling away. Presley Sora sits in 4th. He's the middleman between their top 3 and the rest of the pack. That second pack led by Bailey Turner is now Cummings. Bounces off the wall off turn 2. He checks up. Sora gets by. Turner gets by. Sora lost time checking up for the 10 coming off the wall. And DJ Cummings going to lose half a dozen spots on the bottom of the racetrack. He falls back to almost outside the top 10.
Oh, and a big slide in reaction to that was from the 0-2 of Connor Berry. He's going to lose a couple of spots as they look nearly 4 wide here on the front straightaway. Berry losing spots. Ronnie Osmer is able to take advantage of that, but they just gather it up off of turn 3.
And look at the trio on the inside line getting away from all the madness. Matt Stolnick, the 41, the 83 of Joey Padgett, the 39 of Chase Cabre. This is a situation, Blake, that you do not want to be in. You want to tippy-toe on these first opening laps because the last thing you want is your race ruined by traffic in front of you. Here comes Padgett to the inside of the 41 for P12.
Padgett, a driver that's looking to dig himself out of a hole from where he qualified here today and get himself in a good points-paying spot. Of course, Stolnick in the same boat. Once again, Padgett looks to the inside. Stolnick shuts the door. He looks out of the 0-2 of Connor Berry, but falls in line.
And Joey Padgett going to work off of turn number 3. You see Chase Cabre back there as well. A lackluster qualifying effort that we're not used to seeing out of car 39 as he sits back here in the 15th position, up 7 spots since the drop of the green flag, but now looking at Colin Fern directly ahead.
You're looking at turn 1, Cabre, you're going to follow single file. You see a couple of drivers side by side, one of them being Gary Sexton. We talked about Cummings hitting the outside wall roughly at a turn 2. Looks like that battle immediately going to settle, but look at the things happening up front. They are 3 wide for position number 3. Sora, Sabile, and Turner to turn 2.
Bailey Turner wise to back out of it. Now wheel to wheel for third place. Meanwhile, car in the wall behind him. Connor Berry off the pace. He's going to lose almost a dozen spots off the corner. You ride on board with the 17 of Adam Cabot right in the thick of it. Sora and Sabile wheel to wheel off turn 3.
This is the battle right here. It's for the number 3 position. Leighton Sabile getting it done on the top side is going to pass 2 race cars, including the defending champion and Presley Sora, as he dives low to break the draft. Now Sora once again under attack from Bailey Turner as they head to turn 1.
And we've seen the 5 of Turner and the 17 of Cabot Blake work so fluently together. They were on the same team last season. It looks like that friendship still hasn't really fizzled out. Sora struggling on the inside of turn 1. He'll get a shot to the back from the 17 of Cabot. They'll snake trail down the back straightaway, all the while letting Corey Heim and Reed Wilson run away. They're up by more than a second.
Gone, in fact, the top 2 more than a second and a half in front of Leighton Sabile. He leads the train around in the 3rd spot. Turner behind him, then Cabot, then Sora. Press Ryan Vargas rather in the thick of that as well. DJ Cummings rebounded. A little damage to the right front, but he sits P8. Then it's Sexton and Stolnick, their top 10.
Nearly 5 circuits done. In fact, it will be here in the Pocono Mountains. Battle is on right now for third as they try to chase down your top 2 in Corey Heim and Reed Wilson. Here comes Bailey Turner back down to the bottom side of the racetrack looking for position number 3.
And remember, think about your top 5 right now. Reed Wilson, Bailey Turner in that mix. None of those guys playoff drivers in a sea of green banners. So you think about how these drivers are going to race each other just because there's a factor of not racing for the championship with the 5 and the 66. Here comes Leighton Sabile back for the charge for third in turn 2.
And we know the playoff drivers and the non-playoff drivers may find some discourse throughout the remainder of the season. We know David Schulthouse last week said he's not racing anybody any different just because he's outside of the playoffs and other drivers still have the green banners. Cabot now looks to go around the outside of Sabile as Sora looking to get by as well.
And a slide off the corner there on the bottom side of the racetrack was Leighton Sabile. Adam Cabot going to be able to take advantage and take the number 4 spot. Nearly contact on the front straightaway. Sabile trying to side draft the ever-living heck out of Adam Cabot in turn 1.
And Sabile is stuck right now in turn 1. Yes, he has the shorter way around the racetrack, but he is not in a draft train, and that's one thing you need, importantly, at a track like Pocono, so large, and with these next-gen cars that can gather such huge runs on the back bumper of somebody, you need to be single file. Sabile takes note of that. He goes inside. He's P6. Nice battle inside the top 10, though, behind them.
Yeah, that's Ronnie Osmer that I'm not sure if he slipped in turn 1 or what happened, but he was a little off the pace. He keeps the car rolling, though, now under some pressure from behind by Robbie Lyons, but the field makes their way now back to turn number 3, side by side for third. Cabot underneath Turner. He's got the position off the corner.
Yes, he does. Adam Cabot able to get just clear enough and avoid that side-by-side battle behind them. So Adam Cabot out of Glen Gardner, New Jersey, looking to try and become a 2-time champion here, will lead the field from the 3rd position into turn 1.
I saw one driver in the back get loose out of turn 3. That was the 29 at Bigford. Almost hit the outside wall and traveled down the racetrack. He keeps the car straight, so we'll stay green. Could have been our first big scare as of lap 8. There's a look on board with the Charlotte Phoenix number 29. Championship 4 driver from a season ago. Looks like he's already struggling with the rears in 8 laps time.
Here comes Ryan Vargas in that 26, new sponsor on the race car, trying to get by Presley Sawyer, defending champion. That's for position number 6. Vargas, wheel to wheel, headed to turn number 3, as the cars now in front of them starting to pull away a little bit. Stolnick stuck behind. Sora up the racetrack as Vargas misses the bottom of the corner.
Oh, you can see a slide out of Ryan Vargas. A lot of cars looking particularly loose down there in turn number 3 that we talked a little bit about earlier, being modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. But Matt Stolnick finds himself in a good position, riding right here in 7th.
And if we stay where we are at a track tip of 121, Blake, you're really going to have to take care of those rears, and we're seeing a lot of aggressive driving. I'm not sure whether it's a case for track position or if it's just a case of trying to race each other, because the last thing you want to do is burn up your equipment if we get in a long green flag run. Here comes Chase Cabry to the inside of Ryan Vargas for P9.
And you know, Chase Cabry going to be aggressive early and often throughout this race, knowing that he has a shot to lock himself into the championship 4 here from Pocono. Now right to the back bumper of the 41 of Matt Stolnick. He looks to the outside in turn number 3, can't get it done. Vargas peeks underneath him. Cabry closes the door.
Cabry will keep that door shut. Meanwhile, back up front, it has been just 2 drivers who have managed to pull away from the rest of the field, and you can see it right there on your screen. Corey Heim has led every lap since the drop of the green flag here in the Out of the Groove 200. Reed Wilson has been right in line along with him, and Eric, I think these 2 have kind of seen all the battling going on behind them, and I think they like what they're seeing so far.
Absolutely. The view out of Corey Heim's windshield is the best on track right now. And speaking of that 51, a bunch of folks in the chat were debating the best paint schemes. Tornado, who's watched, I think, every race so far in these playoffs, he's been here every single stream, thinks that Corey Heim's got the best paint scheme on track. I threw out the beautiful purple Shaq Eyewear 98 car. I think that looks pretty great. But gentlemen, do you have a favorite paint scheme on track so far?
I got to tell you, at least the one paint scheme that's really caught my eye, and Corey Heim has certainly done that, but I'm looking at Tufco Flooring, Leighton Sabile, that number 25 car. There's something about just a simple stripe, the bright neon yellow numerals that are on that Chevrolet. I just really like it. It's simple, has a little bit of flair to it, though, so I don't know, guys. I'm looking at the 25 as one of my favorite paint schemes out here.
That's not bad. That's not bad. But I have full bias. Miami Vice. You have to go with Chase Caber. He's a Florida native. I'm a Florida native. I love the teal and pink whenever I see it out on a racetrack or really anywhere, as Caber goes to the inside of Stallneck, who washes up at a turn 2. But I love the Miami Vice colors. You can give it to me any day of the week, and I'll still treat it like it's brand new. I love it.
I will say I agree with Blake a little bit. When I saw the 25 from a distance where I'm at in turn number 3, I was like, who in the world is in that car? Oh, it's Leighton Sabile. There's some color on his race car. He's pretty much been in black, gray, and white most of the season. You know, Eric, I'm surprised you didn't pick Case Collenbach as your favorite car, considering your face is on it.
Wow, my name's also on the race. There he is. Yeah, well, I'm trying to be humble here. I'm trying to keep a lower profile from it. Also, Case had a great season, but right, he's bringing up the rear. Come on, Case, got to pick it up. Catch the draft.
Jacob, I think you're a letdown to all your fans in Philadelphia. You look at Gary Sexton's car. I can't believe you didn't pick that.
Oh,
wow.
Well, I missed it. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I should pick an Eagles car if there was one out here. I just wasn't paying attention. But, hey, you know what? Chiefs probably won't see it coming either in 2 weeks' time. He's trying to make a pass right now. Oh, and he almost gets into Stallneck in turn number 3, washing up the racetrack. He's good for now, but a scare for a driver inside the playoffs.
Trying to throw Matt Stallneck into the wall like he's a San Francisco quarterback right now, as Gary Sexton will file into that 10th position. Ford Martin's just a little bit back up the road from this battle. He's trying to hold off Sage Karam and Joey Patchett into turn 1.
It's a nice battle inside this group, and you look at the 41, just how much he's struggled over the last couple of laps, has been washing up some corners, and you figure maybe that right front is a little worn out, and they're still battling deep within the top 15, and one of them is a playoff driver as well. Joey Padgett, 83, and he's getting absolutely freight trained. David Childhouse, Ronnie Osmer on the outside.
You mentioned tire wear, Kenneth, and even though this track was just repaved back in 2012, this track still eats at tires. This track surface takes a beating in the wintertime. A lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of frozen conditions, that this racetrack is just about in the same state that it was back in 2011 when they repaved it. It's a cheese grater on these Goodyear.
It has been for a long time, and especially with these next-gen cars having to move around the racetrack and find a little bit of that clean air in the corners is a big part of trying to find speed here, but all single file up front.
And we saw Chase Caber make it 3 wide going into turn 3. Did a slide job on Presley Sora and Lane Sabile. Made it stick, and he's way loose out of turn 1. That was very scary for the 39 as he whips it sideways and tries to keep behind number 5 of Bailey Turner. But Caber has been on the move. I'm surprised his tires aren't as worn out as there are. 22nd to 5th.
17 spots. For those of you not wanting to do the math, that's how far he has gone. Oh man, Leighton Sabile washes out coming off turn number 2. Rear end kicks out off the corner, but he's okay. Right on board with the 39. You see the 98 out the back window. The 5 of Billy Turner out in front of him. That's Caber's next victim.
He'll set his sights on Bailey Turner right now, running in that 4th position. And, you know, not only, okay, you've seen your top 2, they've broken away by a little bit, but Cabot made a little bit of ground up these last couple laps on them.
And you know why, Blake? It's because they're single file. They've stopped battling, or at least it turned side of the top 4, because now they're battling for position inside 5th. That's Chase Caber, Presley Sora now going at it exit turn 1. But that's what you have to do. If you want to catch up, you need to be single file. You can't just keep switching positions, because it's only going to get worse for you at the end.
When you also have to wonder how much tire saving Heim and Wilson have done out at the front of this field, because they have absolutely pulled away from everybody else, probably not saving their stuff all that much. Otherwise, I think they'd be at least in the ballpark of the rest of your top 10. So maybe they've hit the wall as far as their tire life is concerned, and that's what's allowed Cabot to reel them in.
Cabot's done a solid job, though. Not a lot of drafting help with him, but a lot of clean air on the front nose of that number 17 machine. But further back, again, we have still had some amazing battles. Leighton Sabile trying to hold off Ryan Vargas into turn 1.
Yeah, Vargas really charging again. The new sponsor, the FFO machine here on the Chevrolet Camaro, raced it last week at Watkins Glen and re-upping for Pocono after his great finish and advancing into the round of 8 for the playoffs. It looks like everybody is single file. I think the first side-by-side battle might be for P9. Colin Fern picking to the inside of Stolnek, almost making contact.
And Colin Fern, another driver that I'm sure not going to race the playoff drivers any differently now that he's on the outside after the first round. And he takes advantage right there, blows by Matt Stolnek. Stolnek now is still up 8 spots from the drop of the green flag, but starting to slip a little bit in that 41.
He's starting to slip indeed. And speaking of slipping, there are drivers all over the place off of turn 3. Chase Cabry, Presley Sora, Leighton Sabile, a bunch of drivers kicking that car sideways at a very tough part of the racetrack. Here comes Sabile down to the inside of Presley Sora.
And just like last week, like at the road courses where mistakes could take you out of the race or drop you a bunch of positions, it's the same way here. Because of how strong the draft is, you get a little bit slippery like that, like Sora did out of turn 3. All of a sudden, you're under fire by a couple of drivers behind you. Sora is able to escape for the moment. That can be one of many if he continues to get a little uncareful.
And I know talking with Presley in past weeks about the playoffs, he said, I'm more worried about the guys that I'm racing taking me out than I am about myself taking me out. That's a rare mistake, I think, from driver number 98. Self-inflicted. Has to limit those, even though he's high atop in the standings. Has to be careful because the safety net he once had, pretty much gone.
It's starting to look that way. Here comes Chase Cabry down to the inside. This is for 4th. Cabry down several lanes from the number 5 machine just above him. Presley Sora trying to shove that car into turn 1, but here comes Cabry with the move.
And Cabry's going to dive deep on the brakes. He'll slide up the track. Will he give the opening for the 5? Yes, he will. Will Turner take it? He can't. Doesn't have enough momentum out of the first corner, so he'll stick to the back bumper of the Chevy Camaro. I think Turner has had enough of the battling. He wants to be single file. They want to catch up to Cabot. Cabot's already pulled away by roughly a second and a half.
Meanwhile, guys, back to Matt Stolnek. He is being freight trained right now. Sage Karam has passed him. David Schildhaus has passed him. Gary Sexton just passed him. He got loose, so did Stolnek. DJ Cummings looks to the inside. That's a teammate of Stolnek. Stolnek able to cover the spot, but still lost 3 positions in 1 lap. Car 41 not up to pace as far as the other drivers.
Well, and it looks like it's not going to get any easier. You can see a big run right behind him from DJ Cummings, who started on the outside of the pole a little bit earlier. He finds himself in the 14th position right now, so falling back just a little bit. But Stolnek trying to recover as they had to turn 1 just behind Gary Sexton.
And that's a good point, but he's not the only playoff driver in trouble around your top 20. You look a couple of spots back on the inside of turn 1. That's the 83 of Joey Padgett, rookie driver. So these two struggling on the opening run. Robbie Lyons looking to the inside of Padgett. This is going to be for 18th. So now you question, Blake, how does strategy play out if you stay green? For the 41 and the 83, how drastic of a change do you have to make to gain track position?
Well, in the 41, Stolnek really just backed up turn 2. That caused DJ Cummings to check up, as did Ford Martin. That allows Ronnie Osmer to get onto the scene. Connor Berry is there as well. Here comes Cummings now to the inside for position number 13. They'll be side by side off turn 3.
Cummings down in the bottom side of the racetrack. Stolnek all the way up top, and they're going to touch. Stolnek into the wall. He saves it and keeps on rolling, but contact off at turn number 3. Stolnek into the fence, and they're looking to go 4 wide to get by that ailing 41 machine.
And those are all Crypto Autosport teammates. The 01, the 41, or the 07, the 41, and the number 10. All of them are part of the same group, so a little bit of tension there, and it's going to drop the 41 further throughout the field. That's going to make the strategy call way more alternative than any other that we'll probably see if we stay green. That 41 continues to drop kick through the field, 19th entering turn 2.
We'll see how long these drivers decide to wait until they start to come onto the pit lane. One car bounces it off the outside wall coming off turn number 2. That's Joshua Slate trying to get by the 41 of Matt Stolnek. So Stolnek now back to position number 20 here, coming through turn 3, at least fighting for that spot.
And that is tough, and there are going to be a couple of takers onto the pit lane. Matt Stolnek, DJ Cummings, and Ronnie Osmer. So all of those teammates, Jacob, just before they come into pit, they make contact. Do you think that that could have influenced this call to come down pit road, or was this something that was scheduled beforehand? But nevertheless, going to split this race into 4 different stints is this Crypto Autosport team.
That's what it's looking like here, because we're at lap 20, so we're a quarter of the way through the race, or sorry, 20 laps are complete. So I guess they're thinking it's a 3-stopper. I thought they could make it a little bit more than that, but remember, limited fuel capacity on these race cars, so I'm sure that doesn't help them at all. There's a great battle going into turn number 3. Ryan Vargas is there. That's Sage Karam that's there. David Schildhouse's teammate right behind him.
Oh, it is close quarters.
Oh, Schildhouse into the wall and around.
Oh, he saves it, but the caution is thrown. Schildhouse looked like he was about dead to rights there off of turn 3. Tagged the outside retaining wall in the front straightaway, kind of overcorrected in what is a very common mistake with these next-gen cars. And boy, did Crypto Autosport just fleece the entire field because they came down pit. They did not go a lap down, and they're going to start the race as the leaders now, assuming that everybody else pits.
I was about to say, that's a heaven-sent circumstance for the two drivers of Crypto Autosport and Ronnie Osmer, because the great thing is there's not going to be a tire difference. They came out of pit road as soon as that caution flag waved, so everyone's going to be on an even playing field, and that's going to be large. And I wondered for a while with the 41 and the 83, how alternative did they have to get? How far from the grain did they have to go on pit strategy to get up to the front? It looks like it just happened to luckily fall into the lap of the number 41 at Stallneck. An unbelievable call. Great caution at the right time. He's going to be up front.
We talk about strategy making a huge difference and whether you could be battling for a championship. It may have just played out for Matt Stallneck, who, again, we assume will resume the lead, or at least he and his team will jump in front of the field and kind of leapfrog everybody when they catch up to the field and eventually make the trip down pit road. So a big shakeup in this race, but hey, that's Pocono. It is to be expected at a racetrack like this. Would like to remind you, though, that Interstate batteries are built to top industry standards. Interstate Batteries has been the technician's choice for 9 years and counting. Powered by a distributor network of 300 wholesale warehouses and backed up by more than 150,000 dealers around the world, as well as 200 all Battery Center franchise stores, Interstate seeks to deliver the most trustworthy source of power to the world every single day. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable and proud partner of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. It has been a fun opening quarter of this race. Blake McCandless, Kenneth Bueno, Jacob Pitts, and Eric Estep on the call with you here from the Pocono Mountains in the Out of the Groove 200. And boy, do we have some pit stops here that could kind of have a big impact here, Kenneth.
Yeah, this is going to be big, and we wonder here how Corey Heim and Reed Wilson might come out of the group, and especially with their lead eradicated, with Adam Cabot, Chase Cabre, Presley Sora, all those guys now tucked up behind them. It's going to put a little more pressure on the guys up front to have a solid and clean pit stop. We should obviously expect 4 fresh tires and some fuel to make it to the next stint. But my question really is, how is this going to change the race if we stay green from here on out, and how it's going to affect the way these guys come in groups? So look at Corey Heim. He's going to overshoot the pit box, so he's going to lose a bit of time. Jack's already up for the likes of Presley Sora and some others. And the 51 in, also have word, Jacob Pitts, that Stallneck is in a second time.
Yeah, so 2 of the 3 drivers that pitted before the caution flag decided to stay out. That was Ronnie Osmer and DJ Cummings. The problem is Stallneck, he has a lot of damage on that 41. That's why he's back on the pit lane right now, getting some of that damage fixed. Because if you don't fix the damage here, frankly, you're going to be in trouble. Because aerodynamics really, really matter here. And we'll have to see, how Stallneck can recover from this, because he had the right strategy, pitting and then getting the caution. Problem is he can't cash in because of the damage that he sustained from getting into the outside wall under green.
Oh, wow, that is tough. We thought that he was in a perfect position. And yeah, we do know this is Pocono. If there's any damage you want to fix, this is such an aero-dependent racetrack that you really can't afford to tough it out and see if it's going to improve. It's not really going to do that. But let's see if we can't catch up with one of these drivers. They can give us a lowdown on how things are feeling out there at Pocono tonight. Ryan, this is Blake McCandless in the broadcast booth. You got us?
I got you loud and clear.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time, Ryan. You've had about, let's say a little over 20 laps to kind of figure things out here tonight. How does the car feel, and anything you can kind of take away from that first run?
I mean, really the biggest thing is just keeping the right rear underneath the race car. This thing is so stiff, so edgy. It's so easy to slide the rears, especially on the exit. I started forcing myself to kind of keep the car in 5th gear more to try and keep the rears underneath me. But this FFO critical path security Chevy, I mean, it's decent. I think I could run top 5, but it's just dicey back here. It's really dicey, edgy. The car's edgy and the racing's dicey, so it just leads to a mix of craziness.
We've seen a lot of different drivers having to work together and kind of balance wanting to battle versus kind of pushing another car and giving each other some draft. Is that something you kind of have in mind here on this restart?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're a single car and you jump to the inside and you can't clear that car on the top, it's gonna get very difficult to get back in line, because once you're stuck on that low side, everybody just freight trains you on the top. So you got to make your moves quick. But that's racing.
All right, Ryan, well, we'll let you get back to it. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ryan Vargas, our Tough Go in-race reporter for the Out of the Groove 200. Ryan lines up 9th, just behind Corey Heim, who up to this point has dominated this race. So as we were talking about earlier, 3 cars managed to pit the lap before the caution came out. Ronnie Osmer and DJ Cummings were 2 of those 3 machines. They right now sit on the front row with pretty much fresh tires, exact or at least evened out with the rest of the field. Then you have Reed Wilson, Adam Cabot, and Chase Cabry, your first 3 drivers who came down and got service to their race car and made their way off of pit road. So pace car will once again dive down to the safety of pit lane. First restart of the night tonight as Ronnie Osmer, a great jump out of the Geico restart zone. Green flag is in the air, and Ronnie Osmer ahead by about a car length over DJ Cummings. He'll slide up by to the top side, and Adam Cabot will shove that 10 car to turn 1 as they're 3 and 4 wide behind him.
And Cabot's going to dive on the inside of the 10 for a second. We'll see if he can officially clear. They're side-by-side, Cabry and Sora for position behind them. There were 3 wide with the likes of Colin Fern on the very bottom. Going to be 2 rows deep, 2 wide, with Ronnie Osmer still holding up the very front by turn 2.
A lot of chaos in the back of the field. Meanwhile, at the front, Chase Cabry, Presley Sora side by side. Cabry washes up the racetrack in turn 2, right up in front of Bailey Turner. Turner has to get out of the gas so he doesn't run that 39 machine over. How about Corey Heim? He goes to the bottom of the racetrack trying to get by Turner now, but Osmer leads the pack off 4, 3.
That he does, and you can see Corey Heim, kind of as we heard a little bit from Ryan Vargas earlier, if you cannot get clear, it is tough pickings down there on the inside of the racetrack as he goes side by side with Turner. He looked to have a nose. He's going to try to pull him back and make the move for 7th down into the first corner.
He's going to either want to clear Bailey Turner or find space between the back bumper of Turner and the front bumper of the 43 Sage Karam. For right now, he's going to lose out the battle against Turner. Looks like Karam might have a little space. He almost makes contact with the 51 on the back straightaway. Meanwhile, Chase Cabry to the inside of Presley Sora for P5.
2 drivers that may be fighting for a championship in 2 weeks' time. Wheel to wheel off turn 2. Sora gets a little loose as Chase Cabry kind of pushed him a little wide. Side by side, just up the road. Reed Wilson, DJ Cummings side by side. Two battles, 4 cars off turn 3.
2 battles nearly 2 inches off each other as Cabry is all into the left rear quarter panel of Presley Sora trying to pull him back, and now Bailey Turner going to get up into that battle as well, so Cabry not able to make the move. He's going to lose 2 spots as a result.
And with the track so draft dependent, this one here at Pocono with this next gen car, it's almost like that's the only option, Blake, you have if you're a driver on the inside lane. Meanwhile, here comes Adam Cabot looking to the inside on the back straightaway. He'll look for turn 2 with an opportunity at P1 under Ronnie Osmer.
There goes Adam Cabot. He already has an M&R championship. He would love to add a second one. He takes the lead away. Osmer now stuck in P2. Reed Wilson behind him. Then 3 car lengths back to DJ Cummings. Presley Sora was all over him. Bailey Turner looks to the outside. Gabriel gets underneath. He's a little loose through turn 3.
And that 39 has been sliding. You can see it out of the corner of your eye. Those big, bright teal colors that adorn that race car. He has been wheeling that machine. But how about a nod to Reed Wilson, right?
Trouble front straightaway. One car to the inside wall, and Stephen Ellis got turned around, and the caution flag is out. They were battling back in the middle of the pack, and 3 wide, and it's Stephen Ellis that gets turned down to the inside wall, and Kenneth Bueno looks like you got a piece of it there. George Belfans Jr. looks like with the contact.
Yeah, remember Blake McCandless, you said on the front straightaway, they were roughly 2 inches off each other. That 2 inches turned to 0. They were almost 3 wide. Here's a look at the 94 and the 46. And I talked about how important side drafting is. It feels like it's the only option for the car down low. Balfans just got a little too close, flirted with disaster, and disaster struck. Stephen Ellis, the victim out of all of that, pancakes the left side of the race car to the inside safer barrier. And guys, second caution of the night here from Pocono.
Yeah, that looked like a classic case of I want to side draft you, but I just I got a little bit too close right there. And I think that shows how desperate these drivers are when they're out of line, how much they're willing to do to try to pull that driver back, to keep them in contention, and at the very least, try to keep them side by side by the time they get to turn 1. Now, the one thing here with strategy, Eric, that I'll kind of bring up here, we had about, 7 or so laps on that green flag run. We know Pocono's a track where where tires always come into play. What do you think is going through the minds of some of these crew chiefs right now as they're trying to decipher whether they should come down or not?
Yeah, it's interesting. 75% fuel loads. We saw in that first stint, and I know Matt Stallnick had some damage, but we saw Ronnie Osmer, DJ Cummings. They came in under green about 21 laps in. Looked like they were planning to make this a 3-stop race. With those caution laps, did these teams save enough fuel? Do you need to pit here? Does this set you up to make it maybe on one more stop? Can you stretch it? That's a really good question. I'll be curious to see how this plays out. I feel like we haven't seen anyone run through an entire fuel run yet to really know how many laps they can confidently go on fuel. So I'll be curious to see if anyone pits here, because that might tell us everything we need to know as far as how far you can make it on one run.
I'm curious to see it as well. Again, it'd be a lot easier to kind of calculate things based off of the 20-gallon fuel cells that iRacing typically uses for this race car. It is shortened for purposes of this race just down to 15 gallons, so you'd imagine that cuts into the fuel mileage just a little bit. I've heard about 27 to 29 laps is what these drivers are gauging, and it looks like up front, pretty much everybody agrees to stay out, but the rest of the field, 18th on back, Ford Martin is the first taker, and he's going to bring pretty much the rest of the field with him to try to gain a little bit of fuel strategy here. So 50 laps to go. You can go about 28 laps here on fuel. If math serves me correctly, Jacob, that means that everybody that's pitting right now, they can make it on one more stop. The rest of the field that stayed out, they cannot.
Yeah, these guys are going to try and make it on one more stop, and I think maybe for the guys that stayed on the racetrack, they think that we're not done seeing yellows, and that since we're all bunched back up again, once we get back under the green flag, we're going to keep seeing the cautions fly. Remember, they have 4 sets of tires on the pit lane, so these guys that have pitted now, they only have 2 left. If we get a late caution, they are really only going to have 1 set at the most. The drivers that stay out, and depending on how things fall, they could have an extra set for their advantage. But Matt Stallnick, he's going to be one of those guys that decides to pit here in this group, trying to get off strategy, and this could be the winning move. And sometimes you have to do something bold like this in order to give yourself a shot to make the next round of the playoffs. But it looks like a lot of just fuel-only stops. None of these guys, or very few of these guys, taking tires. Stallnick, though, decided to take 4.
I was about to mention Nick Olson fuel only, same for Justin Malillo in the 53 Traction 4. Jordan Buster as well only took fuel on his pit stop. I think David Schildhaus may have been a part of that group as well. Yes, indeed. Now, the problem with that, Kenneth, when we talk about these drivers saying how sketchy this race car is, how on edge it is, if you're taking fuel only in these cars, anybody who's done iRacing enough can well tell you that is definitely going to loosen this car up. So if you're on these old tires, you're already going to be a little bit free, or at least trend that way as well. But adding fuel only, that's going to make your car pretty sketchy, especially when you're in traffic.
Yeah, it is. And also to take note, you mentioned it at the top of the show when we got the green flag initially, there's no change in the sun, no change in the weather. We're still hot at 121 degrees. So with added onto the fuel, that car is going to get loose. Old tires on the rear. You have to be insanely careful when you get this green flag. You can also play the same equation to Matt Stolnick, who took 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. Cold tires on this restart might also be a problem to behold with the fuel that he also put on his Chevrolet Camaro. It's a lot of sketchiness, and we know one thing, Blake, about these next-gen cars. Once you get them sideways, you break that threshold, you're going around, and there's no stopping it.
We've seen that time and time again. You barely get out of shape in these cars. Even if you're on the straightaway, it's been pretty common that it is nearly impossible to try to bring the car back within your control. So we'll see here, lap 32 of 80, so at least approaching the halfway point of this race. Lights are out on the pace car, so we will get the green flag out of turn number 3 this time. Ronnie Osmer on the outside of row number 1, and Adam Cabot has elected to take the bottom as your race leader. And at least as the points would run right now, he would be one driver locked in to the Championship 4. You can see the live points on the right-hand side of your screen. Presley Sora, Chase Cabry, and Corey Heim right now at the front of the field. They would be the 4 drivers in. Matt Stolnick would have the toughest hill to climb next week should these standings hold as is. So Cabot going to try to get a jump here on the restart, and that he does. Great jump for car number 17. Green flag in the air. Just 40. 8 laps to go.
Look at the jump by Adam Cabot in the 17. Now you think, is he going to get reeled in as quickly as we see leaders do on super speedway restarts? Ronnie Osmer slides way up the track in turn 1. You'll see the 66 of Reed Wilson dive to the inside, almost a bit of contact between the 39 of Cabry, the 10 of DJ Cummings. Meanwhile, there are 3 wide for position behind them. 51, 98, 43, 3 wide into turn 2.
2 of those drivers playoff guys, and neither of them gonna lift. Neither will Sage Karam, and now Sora gets turned around off the bumper of Heim. Sabile gets a piece of it as well. Ford Martin slams into the inside wall on the short chute between turns 2 and turns 3. The caution is out. I think Sora is okay. Ford Martin took a whale of a hit to the inside safer barrier and got it not once, but I think twice. Big crash in the short chute.
I think Presley Sora is going to have to send a Christmas card here to Ford Martin, who does everything he can. He destroys his own car to not hit Presley Sora, who I think is unscathed in that accident. Of course, he loses all of those positions, but we're going to see it one more time here off of turn 2. Such a high rate of speed. You see the smoke. Martin goes to the bottom, think he's going to avoid it, and at the last second, again, destroys his race car to not hit the playoff contender in Presley Sora. I mean, that's a nice little sacrifice right there from the 07 car.
That's a hole-in-the-wall move, and unfortunately, he tagged the inside wall twice. That is a sacrifice, though, worthy of keeping Sora in the playoff hunt. And I don't really think the 07 isn't really too damaged. I think he is, of course, but I don't think he's as damaged as it looks like, at least from the hit. I think he should be okay. But still, I mean, just an unbelievable accident, and Presley Sora getting tapped in. And Jacob, it turns back to that point you made when you talked to him about him being worried about other drivers getting into him other than him inflicting his own wounds. So a tough break for Sora, and with the drivers in this field, none of them being a lap down, Sora is 35th when he rejoins the racing surface.
Pacing around under caution once again, and it's the way it typically works in Monday Night Racing, that sometimes cautions tend to breed some more cautions here, and getting into the string of it right now. Adam Cabot is your race leader. But we know that we have a lot of new fans who are likely watching iRacing for the first time. If you want to be a part of iRacing, you want to be a part of a big event, look no further than a few weeks' time. The Podium 500 taking place in these next-gen cars at the Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing, one of the biggest events on the iRacing service every single year. The 5th annual Podium 500 is available for signups right now, and you can check that out at podiumesports.com to sign up today. Again, that is podiumesports.com. The official 500 will take place the day of the big game, with some trials and heats going on a little bit earlier on that week. So you want to be part of it, you go to podiumesports.com. Don't need any iRating or anything. You just need to have an iRacing account, this car, and a will to win the race. So it should be fun to see that event return yet again for another year. Hearing some calls over the radio right now with some of these drivers looking to save some fuel under this caution. Again, we mentioned that they would not be able to make it on one more stop, but these cautions, Jacob, they're kind of playing right into their lap. That's exactly what they want.
Yeah, this is what the leaders are hoping for, is just, a lot of cautions. And the cautions, you don't get a lot of caution laps, but because this track is 2.5 miles, a caution lap here takes an eternity and a half. So you have plenty of time to save fuel. And that's what these drivers are counting on at this point. You ride on board with DJ Cummings, and you saw there on the digital dash, he had the clutch in. He puts it in right here, and he's going to save some more fuel behind the pace car. And that's what most, if not the entire field, is going to do here as they come by me. Most of them pretty silent over here in turn 3.
They're quiet, but you know what, Jacob? You can still see the digital dash on. Turn the car off. You're going to save more fuel if you shut it off. That's at least that's the resident driver in me, at least looking at everybody trying to save fuel. I'll at least look around and see who's actually shutting the motor off. I don't really see anybody right now.
Do we need auto start stop for these drivers too while we're under yellow so they can just save a little more fuel?
Well, that's one thing that not everybody maps a button for the ignition switch in the car. So that is one thing that in iRacing you have to kind of do that beforehand. I kind of switch it to a button on my steering wheel because I don't have a whole dashboard set up for my sim rig that's at a computer desk. But that is one thing. If you press the clutch and you shut the motor off, I mean, that's just a little bit, and you never know how many drops of fuel you're going to want off of turn 3 here on the final lap. Every little bit counts. Rest of the field should be fine, though, if they pit on our lap 38 caution, or at least now, should be fine to make it on just one more stop to the checkered flag. Once again, you take a look at the live playoff standings. Cabot, your race leader, he'd be locked in. And these are kind of the 4, Kenneth, that I thought we would have coming into the night, or at least would shape up. When you think about who's dominated this season, who's been leading laps, who's been contending for race wins, I think you really have to look at Adam Cabot, Cabri, Corey Heim. I mean, these are some of the drivers that have really been dominating this season.
Yeah, 100%. You can make a case for either one of those guys to be a favorite for the M&R Championship this season. I think the only outlier is right now Joey Padgett, the rookie driver who has been so consistent, but obviously has not been as good as Presley Sora tonight in the number 98. With Sora dropping all the way back to the field, he is more than 10 points out of a championship 4 appearance. We'll see if he recovers. That's going to be big if he doesn't, though.
He's going to have his work cut out for him with 44 laps to go here at the Tricky Triangle. Back underway, not as great of a launch this time for Adam Cabot. Trying to get away from that battle for second, but he's clear by about a car length over DJ Cummings, who once again is up front here battling for the lead as Colin Fern goes 3 wide, nearly 4 behind him.
And another driver 3 wide on the inside. That is Joey Padgett. He'll slot into 11th. He'll try to reunite himself with his Team Joyride teammate. They are still 3 wide. One of them a Team Joyride car. Reed Wilson on the inside back straightaway. Corey Heim rocketing on the back straightaway as Cabot looks for turn 2 in the race lead.
Boy, Corey Heim lifted really early getting into turn number 2. Reed Wilson catches the apron. Bailey Turner into the outside wall off turn 2. Everybody keeps them pointed in the right direction. The battle for position number 5. Colin Fern on the inside, Bailey Turner on the outside in the 5. Both drivers outside the playoff picture fighting for position.
Both outside of the playoffs, both not giving an inch right here on the front straightaway, but Fern may be the lone man out as he is all by his lonesome down there on the bottom side of the racetrack. Going to try to slot in line, but Sage Karam not going to let that happen to turn 1.
He's going to need space, but Colin Fern is going to dive on the brakes in turn 1. He'll even out with the 43, and that spells danger for the 86 because here comes the 25 of Lane Sabile. How about another driver down low who backs out? That was the 51. The 86 about checked up Sabile and almost caused an accident on the back straightaway.
And Gary Sexton will peek to his outside going into turn number 3 again. A big checkup going into the corner. Sabile a little wiggly. He bounces off Gary Sexton. Colin Fern gets a little sideways. They're 3 wide further back. Nick Olson charging his way through the field. He splits Michael Fisher and gets underneath George Belfans Jr. as well. Josh Slate is there. Almost 4 wide for position off corner number 3.
Oh boy, they are battling back there. A huge slide job by Corey Heim will put him up into the 5th position. This battle a little further back behind your race leaders. You mentioned Belfans Jr. This is all for about 13th as they are single filed out in front of him.
And if you're Ryan Vargas in the 26, this is not what you want to see. You do not want to be 3 wide or 4 wide with everybody else, including non-playoff competition. You want to be as single file as you could be. It looks like he finally gets his wish. They're side by side further behind them in this group. How about Max Kennan underneath? Justin Malillo and Presley Sora looking about 3 wide turn 2.
Trying to make up as many spots as he can right now as they make their way down toward turn number 3. It's single file. Nope, here comes Cabry for the lead. He's got it over Adam Cabot. Little crossover move coming up off the corner. Wheel to wheel off turn 3.
Side by side for the race lead and perhaps a shot at the championship here at Pocono. Just about approaching halfway of this one. These two are battling, but Ronnie Osborne may have something to say about this as well, as now that car 55 has a big run down into the corner.
Make that 20 positions gain since the drop of the green flag for Tampa, Florida's Chase Cabry might be 21 at the exit of turn 1. He gets a big run to the back straightaway. Ronnie Osmer might follow in his tracks with draft. 17 of Cabot will side draft. They'll be even entering turn 2.
Once again, side by side, Cabot throws it in. He has the momentum. He takes the lead. Cabry with the launch off. After backing up the corner, Colin Fern hits the outside wall back in the P7 spot. He's okay. They check up behind him. Still side by side for the lead. Cabry on the bottom. Cabot up top. They're still side by side coming to halfway.
Both drivers want it here at the halfway point of this one. To the line, it looks like Adam Cabot may just have it. Cabry trying to pull him back. Not going to be able to do it. Cabot is clear for the lead for now. But here comes Chase Cabry. Another battle back on the inside into turn 1.
Will Cabry try a slide drop? He cannot. And the answer is no. But the 17 washes up the track. He'll try to rise out of the banking with enough momentum. It looks like Cabry might reel him back in. And what does that say for Ronnie Osmer? They almost make contact. The leaders do, heading for turn 2, and they're still even for P1.
Two drivers very, very aggressive. They don't want to have to go into Chicagoland in a must-win scenario, but if they keep racing this hard, they may put themselves in danger. Cabry clear out in front. Car length and a half back to Cabot. Side by side now for third. Osmer on the outside. DJ Cummings on the bottom. He misses the bottom of the racetrack, and Osmer gets the run off the high side.
Ronnie Osmer reeled in your race leaders as they were battling, now falls back by about 3 car lengths. Cabry will pull low to try to break the draft on the front straightaway. It doesn't look like it's deterring that number 17 at all. Oh, and who is that? That is Sage Karam. What a save by Sage Karam into turn 1.
What a save, and he keeps it straight. We maintain under green. They make more contact, exiting turn 1. Here comes Lane Sabile without his team. He'll tag the 43. Karam again saves it on the back straightaway. Unbelievable.
It looked like Karam went to pull out. DJ Cummings either tried to get to the inside of him or got blocked. There was contact. They were able to hold on. Back to the battle for the lead off turn 2. Here comes Cabot. Here comes Osmer. They're going to be 3 wide for the lead going into turn number 3. Osmer will not back out of it. Toe-to-toe with 2 playoff drivers. Cabot in the middle. Cabry on the outside. Osmer down low off 3.
Osmer loses steam, but the top two are still side by side. And oh, by the way, Bailey Turner and Corey Heim are knocking at the doorstep right now. Wheel to wheel, mere inches off of each other for the race lead, but here comes Bailey Turner and Corey Heim with a shot at it.
Can you imagine Corey Heim with a potential targeting spot at your top two? Cabot clears for P1. He'll maintain calm on the back straightaway. Never mind, here comes a move back down for the lead. Chase Cabry will try and snake trail. Will get some draft off of the 17 off the side, and you'll have the nose ahead for turn 2.
Ronnie Osmer continuing to fall back. He's now in P8, still side by side up front. Whoa, and look out. Here comes Bailey Turner on the outside as Chase Cabry had to lift. Here comes Corey Heim. Now here comes Colin Fern, 3 wide on the bottom. Cabot pulling away. Turner trying to hold on to second from Cabry.
4 abreast for just a moment for the second position as Bailey Turner gets clear. Heim and Cabry make contact on the front stretch. Turner goes to second. Heim pushing him further. Does he make a move? He'll tuck right in line and give Cabot a shove off into turn 1.
That's a smart move. You don't want to go to the inside and then get freight trained by Cabry, Fern, Sexton, and all the drivers behind them and then lose all of your progress. Here's on board with the 13 following in P6. And boy, Colin Fern has been on a mission, was on the outskirts of the top 10 on the restart, now inside the top 5 for turn 2.
Bailey Turner had another big push from Corey Heim. Heim can't get him to go after the lead, so Heim says, all right, well, I'm going to give you one more shot, and then I'm going to try and pass you and take over P2 myself as Cabot pulling away, second on deck, starting to drop back. And if you told me at the beginning of the season Pocono would have the best racing in this series, I wouldn't believe you. Well, I will now.
It has put on a great show tonight, and there's still a long ways to go. 36 laps to go. Cabot cleared by Turner from 2 car lengths. And you have Corey Heim, Chase Cabry, and Colin Fern rounding out your top 5.
And they're all single file. I think now the tires are reaching their cliff. At this point, you don't want to push that race car too hard, because if you do, you might end up in the outside wall, and you might end up with race over and tossing off Jacobs Point. By the way, this is the first time M&R ever visits the Tricky Triangle. What a show it's been putting on as Heim gives a push to Bailey Turner for second into turn 2.
And again, they back off, and that allows Cabot to scoot away by another car length off turn number 2. They'll once again try to get the run as they come down the front straightaway, but Bailey Turner not willing to take the run and go for the race lead. He is perfectly fine, saving fuel, waiting in the draft. And keep in mind, a lot of these leaders going to have to come in pretty soon as one car gets loose in turn 3 and almost washes up into Ronnie Osmer, but keeps it straight.
I heard one call that perhaps a driver was about to head down pit road, but Eric, I just want to get a beat on what everybody is thinking out there in the chat. I mean, we have seen some spectacular racing up front. It has not disappointed yet tonight, that's for certain.
Absolutely. I asked the chat to use one word to describe that epic battle for the lead that's really still ongoing, and intense, epic, dangerous, crazy, insane, gripping, survival. This is pretty intense. And earlier, I thought Dylan Blackwood in the chat had a really good comment after, I think, the most recent caution. Cautions breed selfish drivers. And I think right now we're seeing a lot of take, not a lot of give here with less than 40 laps to go, Blake.
I'll tell you what, the Eric Estep fan base must have a thesaurus with them right now, because, boy, that was some great words to describe some of the action that's going on here at Pocono. Big slide off of turn 3. That was George Belfans Jr., who nearly took a spill back there for the 20th position, but right now settled out for just a moment, single file, as a couple of drivers starting to talk about whether they're going to come down pit road or not.
Yeah, this might be the marker if we stay green, because if you were hoping for a yellow, then it probably would have come out by now. You definitely need a blueprint in place if you want to go for pit road, have a strategy that can get you all the way to the very end. And you looked at George Balfans Jr. inside the top 20. Presley Sora, despite dropping all the way back through the group, he's made some considerable progress, and he's looking for some more outside of James Bickford for 18th.
Colin Fern got the wall again, coming off turn number 2. Going to lose a spot maybe here to Gary Sexton. He goes around the outside. And it looks like Colin maybe going to hold on to the bottom. We'll see down the front straightaway.
Can Colin Fern do it? Looks like answer is no for now. He'll lose 6th. Now he'll lose the 7th position to Reed Wilson, who was so competitive early on in the night and right now finds himself in 6th.
And still inside the top 10. You could say it's been a great run so far for Team Joyride. And for Reed Wilson, a driver who's not in the playoffs, not running for the championship, this is an outstanding race. And we've seen on many races in this season, Blake, where this 66 has been on fire, has been consistent, has been leading laps up front. Last thing in the checkbox is a checkered flag. Maybe that could come with strategy as he continues in P6.
Colin Fern really wide in turn 2. That could open up the door for Sage Karam. He gets right to the back bumper but can't make a move on him quite yet. Going down into turn number 3, he stays right in line, and nowhere for him to go, but another car peeking to the bottom. That's Leighton Sabile trying to claw his way back inside the top 10.
And he's falling back just a little bit. And how about the driver that's just up the road from him in Nick Olson? He's clear by about 3 car lengths over Sabile. Olson hung out in the back for a while, but has found his way up into the top 10 here in the late going.
And this is a very interesting transition for a guy like Nick Olson, who was eliminated from the playoffs last week. He comes into this race with absolutely nothing to lose, and that change in mindset, Blake, could be very pivotal. It could change a driver from racing conservatively and then happened to fall into some bad luck, got eliminated, and then going for all-out wrath in the next race once they're eliminated. Olson is a very competitive driver, and so far has been proving that, has dropped from P10. Well, he was in P10 right now. He started 17th on the green flag in the P2.
Well, he started P17th, but he started from the pit lane at the green flag. It's where he qualified with 17th, but either missed the grid or decided it wasn't worth it, decided to start from the pits, and I think that's why we haven't heard from him much in the early part of this race. But he's here now, racing with a vengeance.
Yeah, he is, and right now he has Ronnie Osmer pushing him forward as he'll clear up for the 9th position. So Olson still looking for that elusive first win here in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series.
They'll all stay single file heading for turn 1, and I really like the progress that Olson has been making and keeping his tires cool on the inside of the racetrack. That's how he's made the moves on Ronnie Osmer. Now competitively looking at Sage Karam here, all single file, and I think drivers are looking for pit road soon. That blueprint is out already, Jacob.
Yeah, they've got to come, I would think, at most in the next 5 laps. Even with saving fuel under the cautions, you haven't been able to save that much. You're going to have to come pretty soon, and you're coming to 30 to go right here. So these guys that haven't pitted in a while, I think they're going to be just short without a caution, and they're really going to need some help as far as making it to the end on this stop. Here comes one on the pit road.
Yeah, the fuel mileage that I show is about 28 laps is how far you can make it on fuel, at least according to some of the calculations when I've been driving iRacing here. So they're going to be close. If you're DJ Cummings, you're going to come out of pit road. You're not going to have any draft. That is going to be a big factor as well. Pitting with a group is going to help your fuel mileage significantly. And if you're somebody like Adam Cabot right now, Eric, who's up at the front of this field, that's not going to help your fuel mileage. That's going to make it much, much worse.
No, you almost would rather be 3rd, 4th, 5th in line here, but yeah, Cummings pitting there. You remember he did pit technically a lap earlier than most of our leaders. He was able to take advantage of that caution to get some track position. So yeah, we might see the leaders pit here either this time or next time by, and then that final run, we might see some real fuel saving come into play, Blake.
It's definitely possible here at Pocono. You mentioned some of the shifting, or Ryan Vargas was talking about it a little bit earlier. He was doing it to keep traction on those tires, but it may be a factor here, Kenneth, on whether you want to save fuel if you're going to ride in 5th gear or not.
Yeah, that's going to be big to stay in 5th gear, and we've seen drivers drop to 4th in the middle of the corners just because the revs aren't high enough. But if you're saving, you need to have draft in front of you, because when the revs aren't as high, you don't get as much speed on the car coming out of the corner. You don't get that acceleration, so you're really limiting yourself. And you look at Vargas here entering turn 2. He's going to try and hang in the draft here with Joey Paget, but he's got to stay there if he wants to save more gas.
Oh, and look out right in front of him. One car almost into the wall. That is Sage Karam that got a little high, wide, and handsome in turn 2. That allows Nick Olson to get underneath him. 2 red and black cars slugging at it inside the top 10. They'll sort it out off turn number 3.
Ronnie Osmer calling out that he is going to pit this time. Remember, he was a part of that trio of cars that pit before that caution that we had. So Osmer getting the call to pit lane. He's going to pit this time with 28 laps to go, right on the nail on the head on what we think is going to be the fuel window.
There's another driver in. That's the 96 of Michael Fisher. So bring him in as well. And add in a tertiary car to this group. You ride on board with Presley Sora, who's been trying to pick up the pace. But now you question, Jacob, what the 98 is going to have to do. This race has gone green ever since his accident in turn 2. So how does he change his play?
He needs help. Whether it be a caution or something, I think he's going to have to get on a different strategy similar to where Matt Stolnick is at, but we'll just have to wait and see, because remember, Stolnick and crew, I think they're still going to have to make one more stop. The difference is that they know when they pit, they're going to be able to make it to the end.
One thing about the driver that we were just showing too, and Presley Sora, I know that he had a little bit of a spill earlier, but it's been a good week for the youngster, 19 years old, has just been an iRacer at heart, and last week announced with B. Laster Motorsports he will be racing a Sportsman late model in 2023. Tested a late model at Hickory Motor Speedway the day after he won his championship in season 5. I was about to say season 4, but in season 5 he went out and tested the next day, and that is one very cool thing. We talk about sim to reality and a bunch of different people who have been able to do a lot of different things, but very happy for Presley Sora. I know he wishes he was running better tonight right now, but very cool news for the 98 driver, and we wish him well in his real world endeavors when he gets to it next season. We have a lot of real life drivers that make their way to the sim. It's great to see it work both ways as they are pitting this time by. You can see your race leaders Turner, Heim, Cabri, and others on the pit road with 26 laps to go.
Oh no, Matt Stolnick, black flag, speeding on entry. A rough week for Stolnick between last week and Watkins Glen. He continues here at the Tricky Triangle for the driver of the 41.
And he has had preponderance to speeding on pit road at very inopportune times in these playoffs, so he's going to have to serve that black flag under green, and you'd think would put him close to a must-win scenario. Since there's only one more race left, you can see all the points that he has to make up right now. There's Adam Cabot. Let's see what he does and if he's going to make his trip down pit road. And no, he's going to take the right-hand turn and stay out on the racetrack another lap. So Cabot looks to be fine as far as fuel is concerned if he can make it back around.
And two drivers behind them, one of them a playoff competitor in Ryan Vargas coming down pit road. Him and David Schildhaus are going in, and Schildhaus hit the outside wall exiting turn 2. Vargas said something about, "Are you following me up into the outside wall?" And then Schildhaus made this pass as they were entering the pit lane, so the 26 making this call. But like you said earlier in the show, Blake, it is very important to pit with drivers around you once you exit. It's sort of like a super speedway. In that case, you need draft or you're going to be lost, and it looks like Adam Cabot might just be lost if he pits by himself, and he's going to stay out another lap.
Oh,
really nobody around him.
Yeah.
Sorry, Blake. Let's see. That Reed Wilson is 2 seconds back. Presley Sora's another 3. Josh Slate is another 1.5 back, but here comes your race leader onto the pits.
Adam Cabot gets down, looks like pretty safely, to 55 miles per hour. The pace speed here at Pocono Raceway, no issues for him. You can see a little further on back down the road, a couple other drivers will follow him in. You see Joshua Slate, Robbie Lyons, a defending champion in this series, is on pit road as well. So is Jordan Buster. And Brett Baldeck is also on pit road as well. Wilson and Sora stayed out. So they have a little bit further to go, but also Sora last pit on lap 34, so he can go quite a distance here as far as fuel is concerned. Now, the question is whether you want to stay out and hope for a caution, or if you're just kind of a sitting duck out here knowing that you have to pit time.
I'm not sure if he's hoping to stay out as long as possible so that he can still have a lot of distance between himself and everybody behind. It's just a matter of circumstance. And here comes Reed Wilson. Left side he goes for pit lane. So that will hand the lead off to the Cambridge City, Indiana native of Presley Sora in the 98. So, I mean, we'll see exactly how long he stays out. Justin Melillo is in the same tracks, although he pitted roughly 4 laps before Sora did. It's going to be an interesting call. And if Sora pits all by himself, it may just be a fresh tire brigade happening in front of him, but I'm not exactly sure that the advantage from the guys behind is going to be that big.
You know,